I believe it all started when, it's gonna sound really weird, but whenever my father left my mother, I felt a lot of abandonment, and I did not know why he had left because my mother wanted to, she wanted to protect me like all mothers do. And then I started to believe that it was my fault. I did not think very highly of myself. I thought it was a really low time. I ended up turning to self-harm, and that was also very hard for me. I eventually told my mother, and that was also a very heartbreaking moment. And then she had me talk to the counselors, and I would talk to them about 3 to 4 times a week. But then eventually said that what I was feeling and what I was showing was just, it was too much for them to handle. Whenever I was on the unit, I felt like all the patients there and all the doctors, everyone who was there to help us, they felt like my family. Whenever my family couldn't be there for me, unless in the afternoons, whenever it was visiting time. And I believe the first hour we would have group therapy. So they would have usually a topic for us to talk about, and we would all take turns. I think I liked it so much was just because it was so judgment free, because everyone was probably experiencing the same things that I was experiencing. And so it felt like I was understood and that I could just say whatever I needed to get off my chest. At Menninger, I learned how to safely express my feelings. Something I still do now is I will write letters. Well, I'll never mail them, but it's sort of a way to get all my feelings out in a safe way that doesn't involve self-harm or harming of others. And using what I had learned in Menninger, I was able to stay afloat, not resort back to the harmful ways that I had gotten so used to. With volleyball, it's just such a rush. I love it so much. I feel like everything else just kind of falls away and it's just me on the court. My mother was definitely my biggest support in like this throughout the entire time, even now. And it was very hard for her. It was hard for me not being able to see her. But in the end, it did make me better, and I feel closer to her. I feel like me again. What I want to do in the future is I do want to go to university and major in psychology and maybe minor in business, or just kind of seeing how that goes. But I do want to become a psychiatrist, and I just want to help others the way that I was helped, because I feel like if I hadn't gone to Menninger and I hadn't had everyone to support me, like my mother, my doctors, my therapists, I think life would be a lot harder for me now than it is. And I just want others to be able to have the courage to take that first step like I had.
I'd love to tell you about, I'm gonna call him Steven for this purpose. So Steven was admitted to our adolescent inpatient unit in April of 2021. He was really in a lost place. He was really struggling with his depression and hopelessness and suicidal ideation, and was really on the unit to stabilize and to get some diagnostic clarity, which he was able to achieve. Once he was at the IOP, that's really when the work began as far as skill acquisition, getting to know his individual and family therapist, and really building those bonds and relationships with the clinicians there. After that, he transitioned to 360, There, we were able to help Stephen apply the skills that he had already learned at the IOP and with his individual therapist and family therapist. So the Menninger 360 is a very unique program. It's based on a PACT model, or a program for assertive community treatment. It's actually the first adolescent PACT model in the country. What's really special about the 360 program is that it's all individualized work. It's all one-on-one, so that we are able to really create and curate a treatment that is specific to your adolescent and their family. Stephen's example, his individual therapist actually got to meet with the 360 team every week, right? So we got to collaborate with her on their progress in individual therapy, and we also got to provide her information on how he was doing in the 360 program as well, pretty seamlessly as needed, and every week in our case consults. So one kind of aha moment that we had with Stephen was when he was able to communicate to his parents that he wanted to switch schools. This was a huge stressor for him and his family. His family was full of high achievers. The expectation was to attend this really prestigious school. He was really struggling at school and noted that it contributed to his depressive symptoms. So for him to be able to communicate that to his parents with the support of the 360 team and get a really positive reaction with them was really a wonderful moment for our whole team to experience with them. We regularly help referring clinicians on figuring out what level of care would be most appropriate for their clients and families. So there's not necessary for referents to know exactly what every level of care in our continuum provides. We're happy to help and support them in making that decision.
Let me talk about the short-term stabilization track. We opened this track, we launched it in March of 2021. We worked on it for quite some time. Really, the purpose of the track is to work with families who have insurance available to them, but maybe have not been able to private pay for a treatment or a hospital stay, which is really the majority of us, right? The focus of the track is to stabilize children, 12, young people, 12 to 17, to stabilize them so that they're able to return to their home, right? That they're not waiting for that psychiatric bed in an emergency room, that we have opened up beds that look a little bit different than our traditional beds, right? Where it's more of a traditional assessment program or longer term program that's self-pay, to really think about how do we help the needs of the community right now. And a young person comes in, often because there's been a suicide attempt, or because they're thinking about suicide, or because their psychiatric symptoms have gotten much worse to where they're not able to function at home. So we work on helping them stabilize. We work on helping families understand how they can help their child cope at home in a safe way. Then they might step down to our adolescent day treatment program, which was developed concurrently with our short-term stabilization track.
Our adolescent day program is housed on the main campus, and it is Monday through Friday from 8:30 to 3:30. So parents will drop their kids off and pick them up, but the kiddos will have daily groups. But being on the campus, we are able to do things like rehab and rec therapy. So they get the gym, they get art therapy, they have pet therapy. So there's a lot more components. We also offer 2 hours a day of academics. As we know, adolescents have to do school, and some of them struggle with that, or it's hard for them to do that with their mental health. So we've incorporated that into our programming. And we have a med management appointment weekly, individual and family therapy, as well as a weekly component. We wanted the kiddos to be able to stay in their homes, stay at school, in their community in Houston, and have those services, but not necessarily need to be in the hospital. But how could we help our families and adolescents thrive in their lives? And so I think it's really important to be able to provide them the skills, the education, the processing, the safe space to do those things while they're living their lives, finding their peer groups, being adolescents, and being able to thrive and find happiness and successes in their world.